Russia, China, and Iran exploit Kirk's murder for disinformation. This is not good, my friends. Foreign adversaries are using the assassination of conservative activist Charlie Kirk to spread disinformation, falsehoods, and deepen divisions in the United States. As NewsGuard analysis found that Russia, China, and Iran mentioned Kirk more than 6,200 times in state media in just 1 week. The narratives vary from Russia blaming Ukraine to Iran pointing at Israel's secret service to China's amplifying the idea of a divided America. But the goal is the same: undermine U.S. democracy. Utah's Governor Spencer Cox warned, "We have bots from Russia, China, all over the world that are trying to instill disinformation and encourage violence." Russian nationalist Alexander Zhugin even claimed Kirk's murder was orchestrated by the deep state and George Soros. Pro-China accounts spread fabricated details about the shooters. The authorities have said the accused killer, Tyler Robinson, acted alone. Still, America's rivals are using the tragedy to amplify conspiracies and sow distrust. Okay, so what's the real message here? America has real enemies: China, Iran, other totalitarians, and they are using misinformation to tear America apart on this Charlie Kirk issue. They're spreading disinformation like the idea that it was George Soros and some liberal cabal or the deep state that murdered this guy, and it's all about destroying America. And sadly, it seems to be working. Let's go a little deeper here. It always amazes me that, look, everybody has confirmation bias. I have confirmation bias. You have confirmation bias. If you're an honest person, you realize that. But when you see something floating across the screen on a news page or Facebook or social media, especially if it's like an advertisement, but even if it's not an advertisement, and lo and behold, it's somebody you don't like, and lo and behold, it's information about how this person committed the most heinous act ever, conspired to molest children and murder people, and what do you know? It's the person I didn't like. I always knew I didn't like that person. Here's confirmation, and you never actually look at the source. You never actually look to see if it is a reputable source of information. Because here's the one thing I know with absolute certainty, and if you're honest, you do too. The algorithms are pushing you information that is going to be interesting to you and tells you what you want to hear. If you want to hear that drinking alcohol is good for you and you constantly click on stories that, disregard all this stuff about drinking too much, drink a bottle of wine. And after a while, your algorithm will just be pushing you story after story after story. Here's Jane Smithers. She's 114 and she credits her long life to drinking 2 bottles of wine a day. Your feed will be filled of that, and that is going to shape your worldview. Well, these bad actors, Russia, China, Iran, know that's human nature, and they are pushing this nonsense now that it was an inside job. Kind of like what they did with 9/11. And this idea that the deep state, first of all, that's so stupid at so many levels, it almost hurts the brain to think about it, but it's going to be pushed. And George Soros is always a popular boogeyman. Autocrats, dictators, haters of freedom everywhere are always piling on George Soros. And who knows, maybe we'll find out that Ted Cruz's dad somehow was responsible for this. Wouldn't surprise me at this point, but we got a real disinformation campaign. Look, you might not know me, and I appreciate you watching me. Google me, check up on me. Make sure I'm not giving you disinformation. I do give you facts based on what I find in reputable journalistic sources across the spectrum. Quite often, my stories are sourced on investigative journalism in the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, sometimes the New York Post, even CNN. I use a variety of sources. I don't just click on a story where I see something where, here's a politician I don't like, and it's saying they eat babies. That's not what I'm giving you. And I urge you, you've got to use some discretion about what you are putting into your brain and what you're watching, because the world is awash with just absolute garbage, absolute nonsense, and it's only getting worse.